Morning, everybody. My husband was quest assessing yesterday, and he had to wear a mask the whole day whilst being in a huge, great big dance studio next to a window at least 2 meters away from everybody. So I do hope that our session today helps clarify some of the issues that are happening out in the sites. Welcome, everybody. We're going to basically be covering today. I think my slides jumped. Let me go back a slide. Hold on. How do I go back a slide? Okay, hopefully you can see that. We're covering update headlines on COVID-19, next steps, where we're going, what we need to do, what we don't need to do, face coverings, workplace testing, and other control measures that are changing. Also a quick update, mental health awareness, and our updates. And I'm going to hand over to Ian in a minute. But for those of you who are reopening all your dance studios and activities, good luck on Monday. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to close the session today. I'm on a Sport England Moving Communities webinar, so sort of double tasking this morning. But good luck to everybody on Monday, and I can tell you I can't wait to get back into my fitness classes. So good luck to everybody, and I'm going to hand you over to Ian.
Hi, if we could move the slide on, please. Right, I'm sure everyone has been keeping track of where we are. I know I'm particularly obsessive about watching all the data that comes in, and it was great to see, and not unexpected, that the roadmap was on track when they made the announcements last week, and that the next step in it can go ahead on the 17th. The government data is showing clearly that the 4 tests for easing are being met. The vaccine deployment is amazingly successful, as I believe we all know. Fortunately, due to the benefit of age, I've now had both vaccines, and hopefully others will, particularly the younger age groups, will now begin being offered that, and we'll catch up fairly soon. They're obviously rating that the infection rate is not necessarily putting pressure on hospitalisation, and that although there are new variants circulating and have been named, they don't think at the moment that that's going to disrupt things. So hopefully all's online, and we are on target to begin reopening and getting back to some normality, to be able to be economically viable and to be delivering what we all intend to wish to be delivering. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Moving on, as also you will have heard last week that the chief medical officers of each UK devolved nation agreed that we would be able to go to the next alert level. Now, alert levels are very different from the original levels that they put in place, where different controls are available in different areas. This is something that covers all nations, and it's saying that we're now being moved to level 3, which means that we still are in an epidemic and that the virus is still in general circulation, but they don't believe it's rising exponentially or likely to overwhelm us. So it's good news, and clearly we still need to work towards level 2 and hopefully level 1 eventually, but it's going in the right direction. So we need to keep a track on that, and I'm sure all of you have noticed people and issues where complacency is creeping in. I hope it won't cause this to be reversed and the next level in June 21st to be disrupted. Okay, next slide, please. I don't know whether we're still having technical trouble. No, looks like it. So these are the summary of the slides of the announcements that have been made from the various devolved nations. From the 17th of May, i.e. next Monday, organised group activity training and exercise classes will be able to begin again indoors. Good news. Can we go back, please? Obviously, after 31, we're losing the knack of being able to run these. So hopefully you won't have lost the knack after a year of being able to operate properly. Trampoline parks and children's soft play will be able to reopen. skating rinks, saunas and steam rooms can reopen, and indoor catering cafes. And there are restrictions around that, which we will talk about later and applies to parties. But catering indoors are for groups of up to 6 people only, or 2 households of any size. How you quite prove that, we're not sure, but they are the restrictions that are still in place. In Scotland, again, 17th of May, outdoor adult contact sport and indoor group exercise can restart. Cafes similarly can reopen, but with up to 6 people from only 3 households. So that's a slight twist on what's happening in England. And again, we're not sure how you actually control that, but it is 6 people from no more than 3 different households. Family activity, though, are unlikely to reopen until early June. In Wales, cafes can reopen for groups of up to 6 people from different households, similar to England. Can we move on, please? Next slide, please. Northern Ireland, an indicative date of the 24th of May has been suggested for the return of indoor group exercise and training, numbers informed by venue and leisure and entertainment venues. The date may be brought forward following a meeting which we believe is taking place today. In the Republic of Ireland, from the 7th of June, swimming, gyms, leisure centres can reopen for individual training only. So that's the indicative date from there. We can go to the next slide, please. We've continued to get questions in from various people around the definition of organised sport, because some of these issues will still apply, certainly for the foreseeable future until the 21st of June. Organised sport has been clarified, and it mentions that it is run by qualified instructors, a club, a national governing body, a company or a charity, and follows sport-specific guidance. If a sport is not organised, i.e. it's a group of mates coming down wanting to hire a 5-a-side pitch, it is technically not under those controls. So they are referred to as informal or self-organised, and therefore do not necessarily meet the criteria, the guidance that has already been issued, and hopefully will eventually be updated and reissued. Next slide, please. Again, just a hark back, I'm sure all of you are keeping track of this. A massive amount of people have been vaccinated with their first and the second jabs. I hear today they're now opening that up for 38 and 39-year-olds to be able to book their vaccinations, and hopefully very soon that will extend down to people much younger than myself. People testing positive for COVID rose slightly in the last 7 days. I don't think this is unexpected. As people begin to socially mix, it will go up. But I think we also have to bear in mind there is an awful lot more testing taking place at the moment, in that there's workplace testing, there's surge testing, there's school testing, and it's all adding to these numbers. So I don't think it's necessarily unexpected, but I think the next one down is the important one, which the scientists will be keeping their eye on, and politicians, in that hospital admissions have continued to drop in the last 7 days, and let's hope that that continues to be the case. And that the bottom line of this is your connection, maybe. Sorry, we've got someone who's got sound on. We could just check your sound, please. Deaths of people who have been tested positive for COVID-19 continues to fall, which is great news, and hopefully leads us towards the roadmap on the 21st of June, where everything will successfully reopen. But I think we all still have to play our part in this. Next slide. We'd wanted to give you clear and accurate information today, but, and we move on to the next slide, unfortunately, there is very little definitive updated guidance out from any of the governing bodies, and some of the governing body information that come out is a bit confusing and is still being discussed and contested. Currently, there is no clarity on maximum occupancy figures. Sport England are still stating that the maximum occupancy figure for each indoor facility should start by limiting to provide a minimum of 100 square foot per person. However, EDM in their latest guidance have come out with applying this to each individual activity space, where previously we were able to build in corridors, changing space, reception, etc. We feel this is going to have a detrimental impact on the maximum occupancies that you can have. We know CIMSPA have challenged this. They too think it has a negative impact on your capacities, and we're waiting for the outcome of those discussions between CIMSPA, EDM and DCMS to clarify where we are. And we'll update you when we can, but we suggest at this point in time that perhaps you maintain what you had in place before the last lockdown. You did all your calculations on occupancy, on ventilation rates, and we think until this is clarified, you should just consider continuing with what you had originally in place, and hopefully once it is clarified, it'll enable occupancy to increase and not reduce, as we think unfortunately the EDM guidance might have indicated we have to do. Okay, next slide. Similarly, soft play. Following the easing of lockdown, soft play can reopen. And looking at the BALPA guidance, which it referred to last time, has not yet been fully updated. Currently, we don't have full requirements of what might be needed. The BALPA guidance at the 7th of May, which was before the announcement, stated ball pits must remain closed or physically removed from frames before opening. We don't know whether that's the case. At this point in time, I think you should plan. Those won't be available until we get that clarity of guidance. It's not helpful by the government social media when they made the announcement showing a ball pit in the post behind their announcement. So perhaps they don't understand the difference between soft play and ball pits, whoever posted the social media. But we're sad that we can't give you definitive updates on this, but we will be making releases as soon as we know information comes out. Okay, next slide, please. Similarly, steam and sauna. Previous guidance included specific restrictions on numbers permitted in steam rooms and saunas. We don't believe that will change, in that the 2 metre distancing still is in place. While the UK government have stated they can be reopened, we're still unclear what actual restrictions will comply. But again, I think you should be looking at what you had in between your two, between the last lockdown or before the last lockdown. In Scotland, the government has stated spa and wellness centres can reopen, but they have not mentioned whether this includes sauna and steam. And again, you need, if you're in Scotland, to be looking at your the guidance that comes out, as we will be. And as soon as we find it, we'll be trying to circulate it to you. Next slide, please. Birthday parties. They are classed as gatherings. Therefore, from the 17th of May, parties indoors can take place, but with the restrictions that it can only be up to 6 people from any number of households. Children of all ages count towards the limit of 6, or in a group of any size if they are made up from 2 households, and those 2 households can include existing support bubbles. Again, how you prove this, we're not sure. We suggest that you make it clear when you're allowing bookings that those are the controls in place, and perhaps get your party participant organizer to sign to say they understand and recognise the controls when they are placing those bookings. But we understand the difficulty of how you could actually enforce that, and I think you've got to just do your best endeavours to prove you've got processes in place to try to make it clear to people making those bookings. Next slide, please. Foam pits. This really, in our opinion, from having read the research and the information that's come out from British Gymnastics, probably only applies to gymnastics clubs. We know that trampoline parks have foam, but on reading the guidance, it seems very restrictive and is limited to one person per minute being allowed to enter the foam pit, and it is aimed at being for essential skill development only. So again, if you wish to look at this, we think you might need extra advice from your local EHOs if you're a trampoline park wishing to use the information that's come out from British Gymnastics that says with suitable risk assessment that foam pits can begin being reused for gymnastics. Some research has been done to show that the viral load after a period of time diminishes to a negligible amount, with the time being the limiting factor, i.e. 1 minute. And British Gymnastics have given some very clear guidance for the clubs as to how they might be able to start reusing foam pits if they so wish. And again, we'd refer you to the guidance, or if you think it does apply to you and you're not a direct gymnastics club with those controls, that you talk to your local environmental health officers before reintroducing them. Next slide, please. What we're saying at the moment is be cautious, don't make assumptions, wait for the detailed government guidance to be published. As in step 2, the guidance came out about 4 days before restrictions were actually relaxed. We may see something later today. Please don't rely on social media or unreliable sources. We heard of one club that had been advised by somebody they thought was reliable, i.e. their fitness manufacturer service agent, that said that apparently next week social distancing was going to be reduced to 1 metre, and the club were about to start moving all their equipment back as though social distancing no longer applied. That is not the case as far as we know, and we do need to make sure that the guidance you're following is the guidance and not is picked up from hearsay or incorrect social media tweets. If in doubt, or the details provided don't answer the specific questions that you feel you need to ask, seek advice from your local environmental health officers. We don't want situations where people open up and then get closed down again, or get notices put against them by their environmental health office because they don't believe that they're following the guidance that eventually will come out. Okay, next slide, please. So what we do know, we are able to hug again. Keep those hugs at home. Social distancing applies when not with friends and family, but it won't be long before we can hug your colleagues and customers again, if you so wish. It's important, as I said earlier, that we don't get complacent. We are clearly all hoping for you and us that society is able to reopen properly, but I think we all know of cases where things have become lax. We're already seeing in 1 or 2 of these areas where surge testing is now taking place that there is some evidence of viral spread. Again, we just hope it won't put the pressure on the NHS again and cause the roadmap to be diverted again. So please, let's try and keep some of the rules in place and not become complacent. Next slide, please. Face coverings. Some of our clients have asked what to do if staff members refuse to wear face coverings. We cannot force staff to wear them. We can only encourage them to wear them. We can't demand that they evidence medical conditions that they might use to say they are exempt from wearing them. If they are using that, we should encourage them to download an exemption card and wear it to show why they're not using it. But you can enforce and ensure that those choosing not to wear face coverings maintain their 2 metre social distancing. So that's a little update on face coverings. We know, again, of the EHOs that are being quite strict. We've had a couple of clubs visited where they've required staff to be informing customers, and also notices to advise staff, even customers, even moving between equipment to re-put face coverings back on. We feel that's harsh, but you don't want to be falling out with your AHOs at this point in time. So it is important that we're seen to be trying to follow the spirit of what's been requested of us, without becoming over vociferous with staff. So the only thing you can do there, though, is the bottom one. If staff refuse to wear them, that you must ensure they maintain the 2 metre social distancing. Okay, next slide, please. Workplace testing. As quite a lot of you will know, this has been offered to workplaces using lateral flow test twice a week. Again, if staff refuse to have the test, you can't force them, but it's good to explain why it's important and encourage them to take part in the testing to protect their colleagues, family and friends. And ultimately, by knowing that other people are doing it, it'll protect them. So again, persuasion is the only thing you can try and do, and explaining the reasons why we're doing it. We're not through this yet, and it's important that we all play our part, and where possible, we give confidence as well to our customers and to other staff that we are doing our best endeavours to try and keep on top of this virus and not let it get a hold again. Okay, next slide. We're offering, there is something else out there called a WATOS. It enables you to offer testing to staff as an endorsed scheme. It's simple and free, voluntary promotional scheme for firms who are practicing it. It enables you to tell your customers that you're testing your staff twice a week, or those who wish to be tested. The scheme showcases those organisations that offer the regular testing and for their employees through displaying an easily recognisable NHS Test and Trace brand. And it's something you might wish to consider, because it could be used very positively as a promotional tool to show to your customers and hopefully give them greater confidence. The one thing I would say, from having been out and around a number of clubs in the last couple of weeks, this first unlocking does seem to have been far more positive than the last, with a lot more people coming back confidently, and we just got to now try and get to those with less confidence to come back and get you back to your full membership levels and state of activity. Next slide, please. What control measures remain in place? We do know that the following workplace controls remain unchanged. So the social distancing is very much still in place. The use or recommendation for use of face coverings remains in place. Frequent cleaning is very much still there, and adequate ventilation. And this is the one that really is important. And that good hand hygiene remains important throughout this, and not only for this pandemic, but also I think as people begin to mix again, we will get an increase in the number of colds, the number of flu viruses that are going around. And I think what's really important, and something that I've picked up from talking to clients and other members of staff as I've gone around centres, is the lack of colds and flu that people are saying they've had. They haven't been better than this last year because there hasn't been the social interaction. So I think it's good to encourage the use of hand hygiene, as much to stop other things than to affect the staffing levels you've got, and to incur more sickness levels by allowing other infections to affect your workforce. So I think we need to focus clearly on those and continue. Just one point, just going back to adequate ventilation. Having been around a number of sites, we're still seeing clubs that are quite correctly wanting to keep doors open where they're unsure of their ventilation systems to increase airflow, increase the space of where the available air is. But we must remind you that that can only be done if adequate controls are put in place to hold those doors open such that they will shut on a fire evacuation occurring. A studio might be able to place that responsibility on the member of staff, but if they're corridors and areas that aren't manned, you have to fit devices such that they will shut when the alarms closed. We've seen lots and lots of sites where this isn't the case, and we would just remind you, particularly if this goes forward, that you should only keep those doors open if you've got proprietary or hardwired devices that hold those doors open, so they'll shut on alarm activation. Okay, next slide, please. This is something more returning to basic health and safety than COVID, although clearly it's compounded by COVID, because we do know that we have a number of people that are anxious, are concerned, struggle with the coming back, and they are real, and we need to accept those and work with them. This is Mental Health Awareness Week. Mental health is something that the HSE is making far more prominent now, and it's something we need to make sure we take seriously and try and recognise amongst staff where there are issues, enable people to talk. It does lead to an awful lot of sickness absence, and again, it's something that at this time we cannot afford to do. So if you have time, look at the information that's available. There's links when you get these slides out to be able to get more information to help you, or if you wish, contact us. We have an online mental health awareness course for managers and frontline staff, which you might find beneficial at ridiculously low prices, and may help you moving forward to reduce your sickness and absence levels caused through stress or mental health issues. Next slide, please. So leisure specific, this is just really a roundup. Please keep a check on the guidance that comes out from the various NGBs. Certainly keep an update on what CIMSPA and EDM are talking about in terms of occupancy levels, and also the more detailed advice from the various governing bodies as it comes out. Sport England website provides information, as do the various devolved nations sports bodies, and keep an eye on the UK Active and CIMSPA websites. Okay, next slide, please. And finally, ensure your COVID-19 risk assessments are updated to this set of guidance as per the May 17th roadmap change. Clearly, you can't necessarily finish all of those until we get that guidance to know that your risk assessments are being updated appropriately. Don't leave anything in there that limits or controls you more than is necessary. Make sure you reinforce the existing controls and communicate any new or changed control measures to your staff. Ensure your pandemic management procedures are updated and remain relevant. Communicate any new or amended measures to keep customers confident in what you're doing, keeping your website, social media and site information up to date. And review your control measures daily, or continue to review your control measures daily to make sure they're being effectively implemented. So that you're not putting systems in place that are perhaps becoming a bit over the top and fall outside the guidance, but also to give you the confidence that you are staying within that guidance that as and when it comes out applies to us as operators. And I think now it's over to Jill. So hopefully from COVID, that's over from me for the next lifetime. And the next time we talk, hopefully it might be about more realistic health and safety issues that we can control ourselves.
I would just take a small breather, Ian, because there's quite a lot of questions in the chat, some that we have already touched on, but I think we probably need to revisit. But I'll let you just take a little breather and do a couple of slides. Just going back onto updates, as Ian's already said, we've struggled this week with guidance not coming out from the government, but as always, as soon as we do get that updates, we'll be issuing information briefs. We will be posting on our social media. So if you're not following us on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, do so, because those will be the areas where we will be updating you on new guidance. Just on training, we have pulled together another training course for you, COVID-19 Back to Business. That's online at a fantastic cost of £2.50. If you are interested, get in touch and we will be able to get you enrolled on the training. What people have been saying to us, particularly those staff who haven't worked at all over this last 12 months, that this is valuable training for them. So please do get in touch if you are interested in doing that training. We've also got our other online training still going, and we're adding to that all of the time. So again, any of the online training, and as you can see down there, we've kept it at a really low cost so that you can get as many of your team through as possible. The training is really good. So like I say, if you are interested in that training, please email training@rightdirections.co.uk. For those facilities that are in Quest, Quest has it's been great this last few weeks. We've actually got some Quest assessors out on site over this last 12 months. Up until May, I think we've done about 31 Quest assessments. But Quest is now picking up, and it's really great to start seeing some actively ready stickers on facilities. We have introduced the Quest Prime assessment, which will hopefully give you confidence and your customers the confidence to know that you've taken into consideration the COVID guidance. So another good way of proving compliance for customers and the EHOs. So we're hoping, as I've already said, that this is going to be our last COVID clinic. We will be scheduling clinics probably every 5 to 6 weeks throughout the rest of the year. And we will also be undertaking our understanding statutory requirement training. I think people have found these sessions really valuable over the last 12 months, and we'll still be offering them across to the industry. In the meantime, we are here to support you, and please don't hesitate to get in contact with us either by phone or by email, and one of us will come back to you. And as I've already said, keep an eye on our social media, because that's where we're going to be pushing out most of the guidance in the next few weeks. So over back to Ian now. He's had a bit of a break, and he's probably had time to look at some of the questions in the chat. Ian, I think probably the one we might need just to revisit, there's a couple of questions in there around exercise classes, and we've had a couple come in on email. So could you just about the social distancing and what people should be doing, particularly in the next few weeks before the next announcement?
And as I think we said earlier, we wish we knew. There seems to be some confusion between the governing bodies as to what is actually intended by the broad outline of the guidance. And at this point, as I said earlier, I think probably your safest bet is to plan on what you had before. Certainly, social distancing is still in place. It's more about your overall numbers that you can get within a room that is the thing that's in question. So we don't have the exact information, but certainly we're not back to having classes where people are in the room as they used to be. So you still have to plan to be able to enable those classes within the constraints at the moment, from what we understand, of your ventilation rates, although that probably is being removed in replacement for this 1 person per 100 square foot, and to ensure that they are 2 meters distance. But honestly, we can't give the definitive answer on that. So I think you, in the short term, plan to keep doing what you were doing, and as soon as we get the information, we will share it with you.
Ian, just on that, somebody's put in the chat around the 100 square foot. Can we confirm that this is just for activities for swimming and fitness classes? Where is the 100 square foot? Is it across the whole of the facility, or is it just in the activity areas?
I think the calculation for the numbers is relevant to that. For the activity itself, clearly it depends on the activity. So it's not necessarily relevant, because if you've got certain sports that are allowed to come back, then I suppose what I'm saying is it's the number you're allowed in the whole facility or room, whichever way they finally decide to come out with the answer. I don't know whether that answered it. I wish we could answer some of these questions, but the guidance is so unclear at the moment.
I mean, hopefully, Ian, as we've already said a couple of times, hopefully in the next day and over the next couple of days, we'll have that guidance and we'll be able to answer some of these questions more fully. There is a question in the chat around five-a-side block bookings. Would you say that five-a-side block bookings are a kickabout?
If it's through an organised group that have got referees and have got are aligned in some way to governing body guidance, it might be. But if it's somebody just block booking for their mates to come down every Friday at 7 o'clock, then probably it's not.
Okay. Again, the NGB guidance is been quite slow this week, hasn't it? It doesn't seem to be coming out. We would imagine that will be out again. You know, if we take the last unlock, it started trickling out today on the Thursday, and then probably by the Monday, Tuesday, there was quite a lot out there. So.
We also had a similar question, Jill, about outdoor sport,
yes.
And whether the numbers applied to that. Sport England is still saying that outdoor sport is determined as being organised, but as you can gather, up to 30 people, we can't quite see why outdoor sport can't have up to 30 people. So.
Ben P, I think that's Ben P from the University of East Anglia, has just put a message in the chat, Ian. Our local FA stated that block bookings through a premises was considered as an organised session. So again, I mean, Ian has said on numerous occasions today, go and talk to your EHO.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
That's
sometimes what the
important.
governing bodies, we had this last time round, what the governing bodies said and what the EHOs interpreted aren't necessarily always the same thing. So if you want to be safe, then certainly go and talk to your EHOs.
Okay, the next question, and I know, Ian, that, but again, you'd probably be a similar answer on here. Any information with regards to pool inflatable parties restarting?
Yeah, at this point in time, nothing's come out from Swim England, so no.
Okay.
This unfortunately seems like our least informed clinic we've ever done, but we like you are just desperate to get hold of this information to be able to give you clear advice.
There was a question around spectators, which Jan has kindly put some notes into the chat. So
yeah, I saw that. If you ask a question, I'll read Jan's response, because not everybody might be looking at the chat.
Is there any further clarity on outdoor spectators from Monday? The gathering limit is 30, but would this be advised as per pitch?
Right. Spectators will be permitted to view events on both public and private land in step 3, but need to adhere to social distancing rules and social gathering limits, i.e. groups of 30 outdoors and 6 people or 2 households indoors. Spectators are allowed indoors, but the total number of all participants, coaches, officials and spectators must align with the ventilation rates, which we've obviously already talked about. During step 3, there should be no more than 1,000 spectators indoors at any event. So I think that question is more are you allowed 30 spectators per pitch? Again, I would have thought if they are deemed to be different events on different pitches and that those 30 are socially distanced and you can control them coming in and out, you need to do your risk assessments to determine how you control them.
Ian, Jan has put some information in our chat on spectators saying that the information has come from Sport England, and it could be per each pitch.
Yeah. So, but again, even if it is per each pitch, which hopefully it is, you still do have to think about the movement of those people coming off all at the same time. So staggering time so that they're not all flowing through your perhaps limited entrances. As I said, hopefully we're through the worst of this, but we must not become complacent.
Just again, going back a little bit, Ian, on pool inflatables, you're correct, there is no latest guidance, but also just touching on swimming pools, the last lot of guidance was that flumes couldn't be used as well. So at the minute, we've not seen anything around pool inflatables or flumes being allowed to be used.
I mean, hopefully, being positive, the guidance will come out. I can't quite see the difference between a soft play with a slide and a flume, again, so long as you're maintaining social distancing. But again, I'm sure that guidance will eventually come out. Let's hope it is positive and allows you to get back to a more normal operation.
There's a question around school groups of more than 30. Can school groups come in if they've got more than 30 people, if they provide them with the COVID risk assessment? I mean, we've got a comment from somebody else who's on the clinic saying that they're allowing schools in as long as they're in the same school bubble, but no mixing of years are allowed.
I think probably that's we've got to look and refer to the schools guidance or the early years guidance on their opening. Schools are by and large operating under their own rules, and as we've known for a long time now, even during some of the lockdown, schools could have come in and used your facility. So if you've got different groups from schools coming in, then I think probably so long as they're following their guidance and their risk assessments, there would be no issues with that. But you do still have to look at your overall numbers of people within your building.
Thank you, Ian. Moving on, and let's move on to the 21st of June. There's something in the chat from Matt around what we think might still be in place on the 21st of June, specifically for theatres, and what are others doing to plan for reopening, particularly for advance of ticket sales. I don't know if anybody in any delegates have got any advice for Matt on ticket sales, but Ian, what are your thoughts about what
I think this is crystal ball time. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully the test venues and the test pilots that they're running, and they ran obviously a big one for the Brits at the O2, will be what will help them define the guidance for the 21st of June. And hopefully that guidance will be around testing prior to entry, whether they will still have to wear face coverings, and what the social distancing needs will be internally. Clearly, I'm sure we've all seen from the test events that they are testing them quite rigorously in terms of no controls in place once they're in the building, once they're in the venue. So let's really hope that these test events can supply you and us with the confidence of what those things should be. But at this point in time, I really can't say how advanced sales will be. The next announcement will be at the end of this month for the 21st of June, and let's hope it includes the issue over advanced ticket sales, and hope that we can be positive about it.
I know today there seemed to be a lot of information in the media this morning around face masks and social distancing being abolished at the end of within June. Don't know if that is coming out of government or whether that's just speculation. So just going to have to wait and see. Ian, somebody else has put a comment in the chat around schools saying that they are doing exactly the same with school bookings. So that's good. With regards to inflatables, does this mean there is no guidance on bouncy castles for a dry side party?
I think that's right. At the moment, we don't have that clarity of that information. So again, young children, groups of 6, possibly, but we don't have the definitive information at the moment to answer that.
Okay. Somebody's asked about parties. Had we covered it? Yes, we did cover parties in the presentation. This presentation will be put up on the website within about 15 minutes of this this clinic being finished. So just head over to our website, to the COVID page, and you'll be able to download. It'll also go up onto our social media posts later today. The recording will come out probably by Monday. We've just got to vet it and make sure it's okay. But the presentation will be there for the finer detail. I think, Ian, we might have come to the end of the questions today. There seem to be a lot of questions, and I feel for you this morning because we haven't got that guidance. Somebody's just put something else in the chat. Sorry, Grumbles in Bedford are running inflatables but are outside, so I guess they have just risk assessed them as normal mitigations are in place. Yeah. Yes, we have come to the end, and we would just like to thank you for coming on to the clinic today. As always, all our information on COVID is on the website for us, and for you. We will be trying really hard over the next few days to push out any guidance, and as we've already said, you know where we are. You will have our phone number into the office, and our email address. If you haven't and you want to email us, it's info@rightdirections.co.uk. And on that note, the Right Directions team wish you every good luck for the next step of reopening. Please look out for the next clinic. Like I said, we hope that it will not be COVID related, and we'll be able to get back to normal. It's been great spending the last 12 months with you on these clinics. I hope you found them useful. Ian, do you want to add anything before we close?
No, I just, I really do hope for everyone that we can get over the next month or so, and we do get back to a real level of not to back where we were, because I think there are some good things that can be learnt from it, but that we move forward and that you remain economically sustainable and are able to continue delivering what we're here to deliver, which is activities for the people to enjoy and exercise and hopefully keep them fit, so that if we get future pandemics or illnesses of this sort, we're better prepared to deal with it. So good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you very much. You know where we are.